Welcome to 1111 vcfirm. I'm your host, St. Marquis. We're on episode 6. We're here with Frank Scott, motivational speaker and athlete.
Yo, what's going on? What's going on, my man? What's going on?
How you doing, brother? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just hanging out, doing a couple of things out here. It's late. What's going on with you, man?
Doing great, man. Thank you for joining us. So let's jump into this. So how did you become a motivational speaker?
I became a motivational speaker. A lot of people didn't know that I was a kidney dialysis patient for 6 years. I was an athlete, still am currently an athlete, but I ended up having kidney failure because I had high blood pressure and didn't know it. I went on dialysis. I was on dialysis for about 6 years at the age of 20, 21. So I was very young at the time. Got into the situation and I had to, pretty much stick it out 6 years while waiting on the kidney transplant list. And then I started to notice as the time went on that I was like a very young patient. Out of everybody in my clinic, I was the youngest. So I was also a good help to like the older patients. Seeing a younger guy in there kind of gave them a little spruce of energy, a little bit of sense of hope. So, I would talk to them and then also talk to people in my neighborhood because a lot of people were shook. They didn't know the situation. They didn't know what I was going through at the time. And then when they found out, a lot of people were surprised that I was still here and still doing what I was loving to do, doing basketball while under, going to the dialysis treatments 3 times a week, 4-hour treatments. The average person, couldn't do that. But I don't know, man, I guess I was, blessed enough to continue on and keep doing what I was doing. So I figured that I, spread my knowledge and, share my testimony with the youth, by coaching the youth and, just giving people that sense of hope. I got a lot of people on the streets, that weren't fortunate to continue to, do something that they wanted to do. So, I would always be that little sense of light because I would, always drop by and, just keep the regular life going, while going through mines and then handling the situation accordingly.
That's awesome. So for those who don't know, like what is dialysis?
So dialysis happens, dialysis is for people who have kidney failure. Kidney failure comes from either having high blood pressure. Once your high blood pressure, high blood pressure is known in a lot of African Americans because of the food that we eat, the salt intake, the lack of drinking water, and so on. And then, you also got things like diabetes and forms of cancers and so on that can also create, kidney failure. And once your kidneys fail, as we know, some people might not know, some people do know, but your kidneys, they run a major part in your body. Those are big organs. They filter out all the toxins and impurities in your body and, pumps out through your urine and your waste. And when your kidneys don't do that anymore, it becomes a problem. So now your body's not functioning how it's supposed to be. So you have to go on dialysis, and dialysis is something that's for people with failed kidneys to revitalize them and give them what you would call like a prosthetic kidney. So you will be hooked up to this machine by needles or a catheter, and they cannulate you and hook you up to the machine. And it's about, depending on body size and the severity, the hours of treatment that you need in order for your body to be fully replenished as if you had regular kidneys. So you hooked up to the machine, and then the blood filters out all the toxins and impurities to your body because you don't urine anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it filters out through the machine, and then it gets put back in at the same time. So it's filtering through the prosthetic kidney, cleaning the blood and toxins out of your body, and then filtering the clean blood back in. And
so how long were you doing this for?
6 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're very like resilient in this process. How did you maintain, to stay strong during this process and also want to give back information to others, to help them throughout this process as well?
Well, I will say 2 of the main reasons why I stay resilient through those situations, because at the time I was a current athlete, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I was playing in the Filipino League and getting ready to make this big change and sign this pro contract overseas to play in the Philippines based off of my performance in a local Filipino basketball league, and things were getting ready to look up for me. And all of a sudden, uh, boom, man, I got sick, had flu-like symptoms, and thought it was just the average flu until every day, it got a little bit worse. But us as colored folk, we tend to run away from the hospitals, and we think we can cure ourselves all the time. And I did that for so long, to the point where one day, the last straw, I was at work, and I was working at a mall at a time doing security, and my nose started bleeding out of nowhere. So um, I thought it was the average nosebleed. I didn't know, because the weather, sometimes our nosebleed just due to it being too cold or whatever the case may be. So I started the nosebleed. It was about 7 in the morning. Um, for about 3 hours straight, it was just bleeding nonstop. Um, I went to my boss and my managers, and I asked them, is there a possibility that I could take a break or step to the side, because my nose wouldn't stop bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was so early in the morning, my bosses weren't there yet. So um, I worked at a mall, so I was there before that stores actually opened up. So there's this little thing called the Segway. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's
What
like,
is the segue?
so it's something that you get on. It's like it's like a scooter almost, in a sense, but it's powered by your movements. So when you get on it, it kind of idles, and then as you lean forward and back,
Oh, the
it
electric scooter.
stops.
Okay.
Yeah, there
All
you
right.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on that. So the air from the scooter as I'm going was stopping the bleeding. But then when I stopped, it started again. So I was like, okay, this can't be normal. So about time the day went, it stopped for maybe about an hour or two. So I thought I was okay. So when my boss got there, I had let him know ahead of time that, I had a weird nosebleed. I don't know where this could lead up to, but I'm going to try to stick it out. And, it was a new job, due to the fact that I was playing sports. I really didn't really have time to have a real job. So by the time I did get a job, I kind of wanted to make sure I covered myself and, try to stay in there, since it was the beginning stages of me being hired. So I tried to play the hero role and stay for a little while. But then I had to use the bathroom. And I remember, like, my waist was very black. So
Mm.
at that time, all the blood had already went down into my system. That's not normal for you to swallow your own blood.
Right.
So I went home, and I got home, and I was laying down because I was just exhausted. When you lose a lot of blood, you get weak. So, I went home and laid down, and as I was laying down, I started to feel a little bit nauseous. So I got up to go use the bathroom to throw up, because that's how I was feeling. And about time I actually got up and left out of my room door, I threw up everywhere, and it was just blood everywhere. So at that point, I was like, "Yeah, it's time to go. Like, I got to go to the hospital and get this checked out." So I remember it was a late night. It was about 11:30, 12 midnight, and I went into the emergency room. They took blood work, and there was a lot of things in my lab that weren't coming back like they wanted them to. So first they thought I had lupus, and then they thought I had leukemia, or something near those lines that weren't bad, because my readings in my blood labs weren't reading right. So when they finally got to the end of it, they came back and they was like, I'm sorry for the situation that you're about to endure.
Mm.
Most kids your age don't have situations like this. And me being young, being like 20 years old, I had no clue of what was about to happen or transpired in that moment. And I'm a guy who has family, but I don't have close family like that. So, I was kind of in that alone at the time. I had a daughter. She was like 1.5, almost 2 years old. So the father thing was new. Everything was just happening at once. You know what I mean? And he was like, I'm sorry to tell you, but at this moment, your kidneys have failed
Mm.
100%. You're stage 4 renal failure. I didn't know what renal meant until he broke it down. He was like, yeah, that means that your kidney functions go from 100 to 50 to less and less and less. And you're at stage 4, so which means you're at 0. So you have 0 kidney function. So we're going to have to start you on dialysis right away. But before that happened, I had lost so much blood from the nosebleed that morning they had to do a blood transfusion. So I had to have about 4 bags of blood. It was just a lot going on through my mind because I actually, I thought about my daughter, and then I also thought about sports, which was really weird. You know what I mean? But that was kind of like the thing that was promising, that I was looking forward to in my future, which was actually about to happen. So, most players, if they got something going, they think okay. I don't know if you've seen When All Things Fall Apart, when 50 Cent was a cancer patient, but he was a star athlete and he was on his way to be drafted in the NFL, and he ended up having cancer. And, he tried to get out there and still try to be the person he was. He wasn't, let alone they didn't even let him play anymore. So that was kind of the stages that I was going through. They started the treatment, gave me the blood transfusion, and they gave me a catheter. And a catheter was something that they inserted up here. I don't know if you can see the wounds here, but it was a
Mhm.
catheter that started the treatment before the access was able to develop. So there's an access on my arm. I don't know if you can see it. Uh, it's like located right here on my forearm. You can see a hump here, but that's basically my vein and my artery tied together. And that when you feel your pulse, that's your blood flow that you feel. So when they tied the vein and artery up together at the same time, that's what created the blood flow. And that's what they use for the treatments after a while, because you can't keep the catheter in for so long because it'd be infected. So
I see.
that was pretty much the beginning stages of how all that kicked off. And at that time, I wasn't a motivator because I didn't have any motivation for myself. So I was pretty much lost at the time. But as time went on, I had some very, very cool doctors. They were dialysis technicians, and they were our people. They were black, and they had seen nothing like that. So they took very good care of me and made sure that they took all the safety precautions to make sure I was good. And other than that, there was nothing other health wise that was wrong with me. That's why they were so surprised um, that the situation had happened the way it did. So as time went on, I asked some of the doctors, like, why did the kidneys fail exactly? Because we really don't know. So if you have high blood pressure, um, there's certain things that transpire in your body, as your heart rate and stuff like that, the blood flow, fast heartbeats. Um, it could be from salt intake or whatever the case may be, stress. Um, so basketball was the biggest asset of why my kidneys failed, because I had high blood pressure and there was no detection of it because I was playing basketball. And basketball, your heart rate is sped up all the time. So you wouldn't know the difference. So um, that was a big contribution of why my kidneys failed, and not having the daily, checkups all the time, going to the lab, checking up, making sure everything was good. The last lab that I had before that, it had no readings or signs of high blood pressure or problems. So that was another thing that kind of spiked my interest. So I figured from that point on, all I could do in that situation is grab it by the ears and do as much research as possible, because doctors will tell you anything. And there was a time during that process where I was about 2 years in, and I had a friend, and his son had passed away. He had got killed,
Hmm.
and he knew my situation, what I was going through, and he wanted me to get tested to see if it was a possible match. So um, the way that the whole kidney dialysis wait list goes, they go by blood type, they go by age, they go by how healthy you are, and they go, what was the reason why you had that situation happen. So if I had diabetes or something like that, and that was something that I couldn't control, and some of that stuff can be spiked up and down. You don't know when it's going to change. Your age is more likely how long you'll be on the list, and then how long you're able to maintain staying healthy. So um, going to those appointments and then checking up with the doctors, and that's how they know if you're qualified to be on the list. So I was qualified to be on the list, but the social workers, they have social workers at the clinics. They have social workers, dietitians. They tell you how to eat, what you can and cannot eat, what's the limits on certain things. Like, you couldn't have everything that you can have good for you was bad for you. So
Hmm.
We talking, bananas. You can't have bananas because bananas contain too much potassium.
Hmm.
So too much potassium, could lead into heart failure. Or you can have oranges because of, potassium. Or you couldn't have potatoes. Potatoes contain too much potassium. Just little stuff like that. Pomegranates. You can't have pomegranates because it, has all these things that just don't work right with the kidney. So I think that was the hardest part. And that's the part where I learned to adjust my diet.
Hmm.
And that's when I got into, eating more healthy. And then on top of that, like I still had to play sports. So once they told me there was a possibility to keep playing sports, I took a lot of early risks. I didn't really let certain situations with the health develop first and then go on as the doctor said. Um, a lot of people knew that I was, active in sports. So they tried to protect, my catheter because the catheter is a risk. You go out there, you sweat, you're in high risk of infection. Infection could lead to toxins in your body and poison, and it could possibly kill you. So I had a tech named Leslie. She used to wrap it up real good, make sure it was good. So when I hooped, it wouldn't people would knock it out because if you knock it out, it's just gonna bleed out. So those are the risks that I was taking because I was young and I wanted to continue doing what I was doing. In the same midst of that though, I signed my first ABA contract to play basketball here in the Bay Area, and
Walk me through that. Like when you first you're talking about the Philippines with the Philem League. Just walk me
yeah.
through, how you got started with that as well.
Okay, so basically, of course, you have your AAUs, you have all your circuits you can go through for sports. And so one summer I was playing for a Filipino league. My boy had put me on, and
Hmm.
the coaches, Ron Salusu, he had connections in the Philippines. He was a Filipino native, but they had a Filipino league here. And I played in the open division where you can have more than two of American imports. So it's two American imports per team. And I played on the team. I was averaging maybe about 30 a game. And then when we got to the draft league is when they have certain players come out. And it's like an all-star game for all like the, top scorers in the league. And then you battle it out through the whole summer. And
Hmm.
that's how you could possibly get picked up. And,
Does the
he
team sponsor you?
did the team sponsor me at the time?
Like for your flight and your and lodging?
Um, Not the flight, but
Okay.
somewhere to stay. Yes,
Hmm.
it's like a tour, so it's like
Okay.
you're taking the tour to see if you'll make it or not. Um,
Because no,
but
a lot of young athletes, they want to play overseas, so it's just asking that information, just to see. So you had a recruiter, the coach. You had connections in the Philippines, and from there you are able to take on two American imports, and
yeah,
they cover your lodging and you cover the flight, and
right,
they give you a tour.
and, yeah, and that's the same thing in the Phil-Am. You have different divisions: 6'3" and under, 6'2" and under. Open
Hmm.
division where it's any height, and I played in the open division. I played in the 6'3" and 6'3" division, but during the season, I was just doing my thing, and then the draft league, I was averaging about 30 points a game, like 30
Mm.
plus a game. So I would say for me, that was like the height of my career at the time. I was doing really well. So, like I said in the beginning, like my future was very promising with what was going to happen. It didn't have to be on a big scale, but it was something that was going to get me out of the Bay Area. Um, so that was just the mission that I was on. So when I got signed with the ABA is the American Basketball Association. That's still professional, but it was just local. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't know what ABA was. A lot of people do know who an ABA is, but ABA was started with Dr. J, uh, George Gerving, like people of that sort.
Oh, just Cleaver.
Yeah, until they made the merger with the NBA. So you got the NBA, you got the G League, and then you got ABA. So it's kind of like in those steps, and then you have overseas as a whole another entity. So that was just a journey that I was on. And so that first year of playing pro was kind of difficult for me because I didn't let nobody know what I was going through at the time. So nobody knew that I was on dialysis at the time. I was real small. I was about maybe 208 pounds at the time. So I was real small. But I still was fast. I still had, the game never leaves you. You might lose weight or, get sick or fall off, but the natural talent, that just never leaves.
All right.
Yeah.
So
So,
you're leaving the ABA. I mean, you're leaving Phil-Am. You're getting started with the ABA.
yeah. And a lot of people didn't know my situation at the time because I was on dialysis. The whole team didn't know until I told a few people later on because I started to get a little bit more comfortable. But I felt like that was a handicap to me in my career and what I was trying to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say I was very in denial as well. Uh, I hadn't come terms with it because I kind of kicked it to the side because I was able to keep playing sports, but it was a serious matter. Like, I didn't know how serious it was until after like my first year of being on dialysis. You know what I mean? Like this could be forever. Like who knows? Who knows if I could survive on this because, that's basically life support. If you don't go to dialysis, you get sick.
Prices you made, just
Yeah.
playing basketball and taking those risks. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So, I think those were some of the biggest issues that I had to deal with mentally as well as
Mm-hmm.
physically, because here I am, 208, skinny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm used to being big. And I'm playing against these guys who's 6'8", 6'6", full energy. Body's way stronger. No matter how much I lift, I couldn't get no weight because the dialysis was just breaking my body down bit by bit. So, your body is chemically unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get all these different things happening to you at different times. And, you just kind of got to deal with it.
How did you cope with that mentally?
Honestly, I didn't. Even still now, um, leading up to where I'm at now, like I still haven't been able to uh, get to where I want to be mentally with like just understanding that where I'm at in life and where I'm trying to get now it's kind of much, it's harder now because of one, age, and then also trying to be that guy that I was before I got hurt. So I think it's been an uphill battle with that. It's led off into my personal life, relationship and so forth, because here I am. I'm still thinking in my mind like this life that I'm supposed to be living, and I'm not living it. You know what I mean? I'm living it to a degree, but I don't want to live it to where I'm still local. I don't want to be one of the local dudes, at the gym that say, "Oh yeah, he could have been something," or that dude was nice, but this and this happened, so oh he's wasted talent or this and that. So it was just a lot of things leading up to the mental breakdowns that I was having. People that knew me, saw me now, see me now, and they, I want the old this back, I want the old that back. So it's kind of like trying to play up to their expectations and not playing for me. So
How do you do that? How do you separate yourself from your past self and move on into the future with your new goals and new ambitions and distance yourself from that and everybody else's expectations?
honestly, I think you can't. I think you just have to realize that, you know, even when you leave your legacy behind or you pass away, there's this image of you that is left behind. And that's what people expect when they hear your name or they see you or whatever the case may be. Like, you got the Hook Mitchells of the world. Hook Mitchell was a Bay Area native, from West Oakland. And, he had hops that nobody in this world can match.
Hook
He
Mitchell's a legend for those who don't know.
Yeah, Demetrius Mitchell, aka Hook Mitchell. He was a Bay Area legend from West Oakland, and he just did some incredible things just due to his tremendous hops, and he was known all over the world for what he did on the court. But he got into some dark points in his life where drugs happened, and he robbed a bank, and all these crazy things happened, and he threw his life away with drugs and in and out of jail. And even when he tried to bounce back, something always brought him back into the dark. So, you got people like that. Hook Mitchell, was one of the first people, who wasn't in the NBA to have a shoe deal. Could have been picked up by the Warriors. He had a lot of NBA buddies: Gary Payton, Brian Shaw, Jason Kidd, just to name a few that's from the Bay Area, that played in the NBA and that was successful. To be a part of that pedigree and not make it, I can only imagine what mentally it did to him as well, outside of the drugs. Maybe that encouraged the drugs. So for me, not being on drugs, never smoked, never, did nothing crazy like that. That's kind of how I am now. Like it's like I'm still living in the moment, but yet I'm still trying to get back something that I can't get back anymore. So I just cope with it by just, trying to stay positive. I'm still playing. This is my third year in the ABA. My first year healthy, because in 2017, in October 21st, I received a kidney transplant. So
That's awesome, man.
that was a process within itself. That was a whole year of getting back, working out, getting the body back, adjusting to the new kidney and being able to do stuff that, normal people can do and not have to be confined to being somewhere, 3 times a week, 4 hours a day. And, it was just a different lifestyle. So I had to get back to learning how to live, like a regular human being, which wasn't hard. Uh, it was just very like just mind boggling trying to, juggle everything, like still trying to be that father and, still trying to keep up with the appointments and all these pills you get in the beginning stages. Like it's a lot of work that's put into it. But I have my girlfriend, my girlfriend helped me out a lot. We're still together now. She helped me out a lot.
Awesome. Just
Just
keeps you going.
yeah, it just gives you something to live for. It just gives you a little bit more motivation. Um, the workout process was crazy, which I loved. I went through a lot of adversity through the beginning stages because when I came back, um, of course, now I'm getting all my weight back. I'm much bigger now. The body's coming back, but I'm overweight because I still got all these uh, this saline and drugs that's pumping me up, making me bigger. So, I was a roughly like 285. I'm 6'3", 285. I'm big. You can see the potential of like the body. You can tell it wasn't me. It was somebody else because my arms and, everything else was small. It was just the stomach and the legs and the thighs and everything else. So, you know, um, just getting back to that grind, maybe like about 2 months after my surgery. My surgery had healed. They had like, they don't remove your kidneys from behind you. They add one. So they enter the pubic nerve, which is right below where your pubic hairs start. That right up in there in that area, and they make an incision, and that's where they insert the kidney in there. And they hot glue it. So once the glue fell off, I was able to start shooting around. It started from shooting around, and then I couldn't lift because, they didn't want me to catch a hernia too soon because, the wound is fresh, everything is still fresh. So they wanted me to just take my time with it. And as my labs got better, the labs I had to go at least once a week. So I would have to
Mhm.
take these long drives up to UCSF, the transplant center, and, get checked up on. Um, just to see how the kidney's doing, to make sure there's no sign of rejection because, rejection is a big thing and that's what they don't want to happen because they want you to, keep your kidney. But, at my age, they wanted to make sure they had the best match for me. So I will say now that the process that I went through to lead up to that transplant, it was worth it because the kidney that I got, God bless the dead, the lady was about 19 years old. She was brain dead. but her mother donated the kidney. She wanted to remain anonymous, so I didn't really get to thank her or none of that. But the whole stages of the recovery of walking around the top floor, doing numerous amount of laps, just trying to get that old thing back in a rush. You know, um, I got released, and then it took about roughly 2 months to just for the actual incision to heal. And I started shooting around, got comfortable. I still was overweight. I went back to my old team that I was on to finish out the season. So I went back to finish out the season, but mind you, like I said, I'm like 2 something.
Mhm.
Man, that was the worst. Getting back into a professional environment, I didn't even see how my coach let me even play. But I had that spark. You know what I'm saying? I had that spark, like, when you can see somebody who was that guy, but now he's just fat or he's going through some things, but you could be like, yeah, when he was that dude. Like, so that's kind of what it was with me. Like, people respected me because they knew what type of caliber of player I was. But I went through some things. So after that season, I just went into a rebuilding stage, and I started working out, like training with my trainers every single day, to the point where like I started to drop the weight really fast.
Mhm.
Um, I started working out with my guy Rob, and he put me through a lot of stuff. Even when I was tired and breaking down, I cried a few times. It was hard, man. It was hard just trying to get back in shape. So the diet was the biggest part, and then working out came second. And it was only so much I can do because I couldn't lift weights. So um, went through the process, lost the weight. ABA season came around again last year. Um, I went to a new market with a new team. It was a newfound team called the San Francisco City Cats. Um, they had just started their team. I went to the tryouts. Bust my ass. Was still a little overweight, but I was conditioned, and I had a lot of time before the season started to get to where I needed to get to. Um, Battling against those guys every day, um, just helped me get my IQ and my vision and my style of play back, and then also trying to get up to speed, professional speed. That was a battle itself, but it all prepared me. Uh, the owner made me the ambassador of the team. Um, I did a lot of really great things with them during that time. We were number one in the nation, undefeated. We went through the summer league. We went undefeated. We hadn't lost, but there was some situations when the season started. Me and the coach had some words because favoritism, politics, things like that came into play. So I just felt like I was let down. Out of all the stuff that I did for the team, as far as the marketing part comes along. So, I was known as the poster child, one of the poster childs for this team. My face is everywhere because I'm the team ambassador. And then when the real season started, I didn't get to play. So the first game, he told me I wasn't suiting up. I quit right then. I requested a trade simply because, not because I thought I was the shit, but I knew my worth. I couldn't be put in a situation where I bust my ass all summer and, even before summer hit, to be played like this. So I went where I was, accepted. Um, and I went back to my old team. Went back there, re-signed with them, and it was a good situation for me. It gave me a lead role. I started. Um, I averaged about 20 points a game. Um, Played them my second game of the season, and they were still undefeated, number one in the nation. And that night, I think I had about 30 points, and we beat them. And the team was the laughing stock of the ABA because they never won a game. And when we played them in the summertime, they got beat by 100. So to be able to turn the tables and be on that losing team and then come out and do what I did, not only for myself, but in front of that coach, I think that really lit my fire and let me know that I belong. Um,
Hmm. And now you're helping coach with kids too, with the Warriors, right?
yeah, I currently work
Talk
for the
about
Golden
that.
State Warriors. I work for the Warriors. I'm doing basketball camps. It started off in the summer. I had a lot of friends, uh, like maybe about two or three friends who were doing it. Um, as we know, doing anything that's related with the Golden State Warriors, it's hard work to get in there. I ended up getting in, and I was doing summer camps for the whole summer, and then it led on to me being put on permanently. So now I just do them, whenever we have camps and so forth. I'm there. It's great perks. Uh, the kids are great. The establishment is great. The whole organization is pretty good. Definitely a different experience on the coaching side. I used to coach high school. That's what I was doing in between time too. I was coaching high school over at Vision Academy in downtown Oakland. Um, I was coaching the varsity girls, and we did some really great things over there. Went all the way to the championship, lost. I exposed them to a lot of different markets that they hadn't been in, because of the school. The school was kind of ran down. It's a nonprofit school. The coach is black. Um, he's the men's coach, Coach John. He was my coach, coaching growing up through AAU. So coaching side by side with him, Coach John and Coach Ham, that was a pretty dope thing for me. Other than that, coaching the Warriors and then doing AAU coaching as well just brought a lot of joy to me as well. So that's pretty much some of the stuff that I'm still doing now, other than playing. Right now, we're in season, Oaktown Warriors. Um, we got an okay record. Season's about to come to an end pretty soon, but I would say that this season was one of the best seasons that I ever had, just because of everything that has transpired. Um, it helped me be motivation for people around me, as well as the youth that I was tapped into. Um, just letting them know that anything is possible, and that anything that you set your mind on, you can do it. It's trials and tribulations just growing up as a young black man in Oakland. So much temptation and killing and stealing and robbing and just a lot of stuff growing up in the Bay Area. You can easily be tempted by it because things can be so easy, but yet so much of a pain and put you in a negative place and put you somewhere you might don't want to be. So to be able to have that focus and to be driven and not have done any of those things and stuck by sports and having sports be my outlet for all negativity, uh,
Hmm.
it helped me out a lot. All my coaches and friends that kept me in and motivated me to stay going during the times when I didn't want to. I think that was a good thing for me. And I didn't know that my testimony, just speaking about what I was going through, would help so many people. Um, one of my friends, DeLorean, her and her friend decided to do a project on me. Um, they basically filmed a mini short documentary for their class. And it was basically just, breaking down health and basketball and how I bounced back from it. That gave, and when I put that out, that put a lot of people on, put a lot of people on kidney awareness and, about the kidney walks and kidney months. And then, you had the rapper, Philadelphia Freeway, who's a member of Jay-Z's Rockefeller. He was diagnosed with kidney failure 4 years ago. And he passed. I mean, he didn't pass away, but he got real sick, and he was on dialysis, for 4 years, and he just recently got a transplant. So, um, he's my friend on social media, and it's just crazy, when you're in an avenue or something. That's like seeing a car. You see your one car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing more of them. So
Hmm.
as I got deeper into kidney awareness and doing the walks and doing the being an advocate for certain things, I started to see more and more and more and more people. So people will reach out to me on Facebook and say, I love your testimony, I love your story, and people would DM me and send DMs saying how they're going through certain struggles, and they like, I look at your page and I see what you're doing now, and for you to be where you are now, like, that's truly a blessing. You keep me going. And just being an average person, regular person, I've never had that. So I would say that definitely kept me grounded through the whole process alone. And it's
Yeah.
still a process, you know. The kidney isn't mine. So, at any moment anything can happen. So, you got to be aware of people with too many germs. You got to be aware of, because everybody's immune system ain't the same. So, you just got to watch out for certain stuff. You got to make sure you're taking your medicine, on schedule, and, having your routine down, and making sure I monitor my blood pressure, because my blood pressure is still, within range, but it can fluctuate depending on. So, I'm on blood pressure medicine now, but hadn't I had blood pressure medicine back then, I would have been able to um, take control and handle the situation without having to go through what I went through.
Right. And you're supported, brother. You got other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, and you're able to share your testimony, and they're able to resonate with that and make their lives better. What would you say to, the younger Franks in other cities, that are going through what you're going through, how
Um,
to cope with this process?
you cope by finding something that you're happy about, something that you're good at, other than whatever it was that you were doing before. For me, my passion was cooking, cooking and coaching. So um, I started cooking, cooking for people here and
Hmm.
there, just just as a hobby, something to do. Um, I definitely read a lot more, uh, worked out a lot, um, did other things that weren't health related. Because sometimes you can get stuck in being in a
Staying
box,
productive.
and
Yeah.
just
Just keeping busy.
just stay productive, man. Just keep busy and pray,
Hmm.
man. Pray.
I'll get you through it. And do you have any upcoming projects coming up?
Actually, I do. So, like I said previously, that I enjoy cooking. Um, I decided to bring, uh, you have your hibachi restaurants like Benihana's, and you have your Hannah Japans and Shirshonis of the world. But then you got, Benihachi, which is bus, a truck for hibachi food. So I thought, how about I have a stand here in Oakland where I can give, hibachi on the go, and also, serve other foods as well. So this summer I'll be opening up hibachi for lunch. That's the title of my stand. I'm gonna be opening it up June 23rd, because it's my birthday. That'll be something, something rewarding for myself. Just want to try to get this food out to the people, see how receptive it is, and possibly, try to take it into another avenue where I can grow it into something better. Um, and it's definitely one of the things that's going to kind of help me transition out of sports. Um,
All right. So how can the people get in contact with you?
you can follow me on Instagram at focus_35. Uh, you can email me at frankscott0521 at yahoo.com. Uh, from there on, if you need a direct contact, you can DM me on there, and I can give you direct contact information. But yeah, June 23rd is when I'm going to release the stand, and hopefully, it does some good. Hopefully, you get some good food out of it, and just enjoy. I'm not going in it with expectations, because of course, when you go into things with expectations and it don't go the way you want it to go, uh, it kind of gets you discouraged and makes you don't want to do it anymore. So I'm just going in it with an open mind, doing something that I love, and just hoping people enjoy the food. Um, I currently cook for certain people every now and then when I have the time. My boy Kujan, who's a part of the HBK, Schmop. Um, he's one of the main guys who I've been cooking for, and he's been motivating me, letting me know I should be doing it, because I cook for him all the time. And when I mentioned the idea to him, he was like, "It's definitely a good idea." He has a house. It's a house located in the Bay Area, and it's an infamous known house called the Schmop House. So a lot of rappers and dancers and artists, and just people of all influencers, they all go there and they just hang out and have a good time. So my first my first day, when I start selling my food, is going to be at the Schmop House.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I'll keep posting information on my Instagram as well to keep people updated with it.
It's awesome staying around people that's keeping you motivated. I want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing your success story.
Oh, no
And
problem.
thank you, for talking to those, that can use your story and use it in their lives and apply it.
Thank you. I
Appreciate
really
that, man.
appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
You know it. You know it. It's 11:11. VC Firm, episode 6. Frank Scott, guys.